Hey everybody, Steve Przebrowski here. Welcome to tip number 64 in the series 101 Tips to Ace Your Promotional Examination. As a reminder, my website, code3firetrain.com, has a lot of great free information on there for all ranks of personnel and regardless of whatever type of department you also work at. So something for everybody on there if you want to continue to be the best that you can be, not just in your own pursuit of excellence, but as you're mentoring and helping guide and train others in your pursuit. And this series is based on my latest book for fire engineering books and videos, available off their website as well as mine. And tip number 64. So we've talked about a lot of different things that all specifically focus on preparing for the position, because I think preparing for the position is the most important thing you can do. Something that gets a lot of people out of their comfort zone is having to stand in front of others, and not just stand in front of others, but speak, talk, teach others. Now, it's pretty loud and clear. The statistics show that public speaking is feared by many. More people, I remember seeing a statistic one time that more people fear public speaking than they do death itself, which is pretty interesting. And I used to be one of those people that really was not comfortable speaking in front of others for whatever reason. I don't know what it was, but I guess over time, I've gotten very comfortable to speaking in front of others, whether it's one person or whether it's hundreds of people, if not more. So, you got to find out what works good for you. But then, first of all, you may go teach classes inside and outside of my fire department. Why does that matter? Well, think about this. For anyone that's watching this, odds are that you're going for a promoted position, which is great. And also nothing wrong with staying in your current position either, because we need great people in every rank. But anyway, most of the promoted positions are really fire officer positions, meaning lieutenant, company officer, or chief officer positions, battalion chief, all the way up to fire chief. Yeah, engineer is a promoted rank, so I'm not knocking that. But engineer is one of many ranks. So the majority of ranks you're going to take a promotional exam for is going to put you in the position of having to be an instructor or a speaker. Think about it. As a company officer, you're going to be having to instruct your crew, train your crew on a daily basis. Now, the key is do what you're best at, meaning we're all subject matter experts in something. So find your passion, find your strengths, and capitalize on them. When it comes to areas that you're not so strong at, well, here's an opportunity, obviously, to get better at them. But obviously, don't try to bullshit people, because that'll come through. But again, it's, instructional skills are important as a company officer. And it's not just instructional skills. It's, sorry, give me a second. It's also public speaking skills, which sort of ties together. For anyone that's gone through any formal instructor training, and you may go, well, how do I get formal instructor training? Well, obviously at a college you could do that, but in many state systems that are state fire marshal, state fire training sponsored certified classes, usually one of the many classes required to be a fire officer or chief officer is obviously leadership classes, management classes, supervisory classes, command and control, but also usually instructional ability. So like in California, if you want to get your fire officer, chief officer certifications, you have to take the training classes that relate to adult instruction and teaching and training others. Again, it's an important responsibility that a company officer is going to do on a daily basis. Even a chief officer is going to be doing the same. Not just teaching classes of the crew, but it may be multiple crews, and it may be just public education details where you're out in front of a school. You're maybe in front of a group of school kids doing a station tour or whatever else. So you got to get over your jitters. And think about this. While this is preparing you for the position, it's also preparing you for the test, because if you think about it, during your promotional process, you're probably going to have an oral interview, which involves public speaking and communicating, all skills that you can improve upon by being an instructor. Some of those that do well in oral interviews are usually those that are comfortable in front of others, those that are comfortable speaking, teaching, working with others, assisting others, coaching others, mentoring others. So teaching class is one way to get comfortable in front of others. Now, I think I've sort of hit on a lot of the why. The how, sometimes departments will reach out, maybe in a memo to all personnel saying, hey, we're looking for instructors for the upcoming academy or whatever else. Because let's say you're a firefighter going, well, how do I get experiences? I'm just a firefighter. And I hate people say just a whatever. Okay, well, first of all, if you're a firefighter or engineer at your own firehouse, the best way to start teaching classes is ask your company officer, hey, Cap, Lieutenant, mind if I do Friday's drill? And hopefully they're there to support you and say, yeah, sure. What you want to do it on? Well, I want to do it on low angle rope rescue. Perfect. Okay. Hopefully you have a good officer that's going to help mentor and coach you through the process so you don't fall on your face. And hopefully they're very supportive about what you're doing to provide guidance, tips, and suggestions and so forth. But anyway, start in your own firehouse by doing that with your own crew. And then from there, maybe do multi-company drills. When I was a firefighter at one of our stations that has high-rise buildings, um, I was preparing for the captain's test, and I remember the battalion chief, who knew I was preparing for the captain's test, but also knew that I was an instructor already at the local community college on my days off. Without missing a beat, he's like, hey, for our Saturday multi-company drill, because on Friday and Saturdays our department does multi-company drills. He's like, hey, Steve, since your engine's assigned to the drill and you're first due to the high rise, the Pruneyard Towers in Campbell, how about you lead the drill? And I'm like, sure, chief, bring it. And I figured it was a great opportunity for me to learn more about the high rise. I had a good working knowledge that high rise was in my first due area, but it also gave me a chance to learn more about it, even though I should have known more about it. But again, start out that way. And I was able to share a lot of good nuggets with others. Plus, I was able to learn a lot of things from the other students because, again, the other companies, everyone comes with experience, advice, and maybe different parts of history that they can share with us. So again, start with your local company and then maybe branch out from there, multi-company drills. And that's just really right there. If your department has a recruit academy, which most departments do, volunteer to teach the recruit academy. Now, before you volunteer or raise your hand to be a volunteer, make sure you got some basic training down. If you can find an instructional techniques course through your state fire training or state fire marshal system, take that, because you're going to learn a lot about adult learning, which is really critical. I mean, it's also going to benefit you as a leader, supervisor, manager, but adult learning techniques, how to write tests, how to best deliver a session, whether it's a hands-on manipulative session or whether it's a lecture session, both of which are important and have their need. I know everyone hates lecture and everyone prefers hands-on in the fire service, but you can't always do all hands-on without some form of lecture in the beginning just to wet the whistle and set the stage. So, have some form of training that you can bring, before you get up there, because the last thing you want to do is, embarrass yourself or anything else. So learn, and you could also learn from watching others. So, there's a lot of great instructors that are out there. You can look, Google them, YouTube them. One of the best ways to learn about instructional ability and look at who is good speakers, good communicators, Google or go to YouTube and look for TED Talks, TED, like TED, the name, TED Talks. It's usually high impact, high energy, 15 to 20-minute speeches on one topic. And usually those are very good presenters and communicators that can really get the attention and keep the attention of their attendees. Because so much of that is, I hate to say it, but we've all sat through instructors, whether it was at high school, elementary school, college, maybe even our own department in our own academy, that were just boring the hell out of us. That were just like, oh my fucking, the talking head that, hello, today we're going to talk about fire hose. OMG. You don't want to do that, because so much of being a communicator, and an excellent communicator, is being able to inflect your voice, raise your, not speak too fast, not speak too slow, be able to have different ways to say things, to emphasize key points, to keep people ready to listen on the edge of their seat. And a good way to learn about communication skills is watch some of the newscasters on the major news channels. Usually those people on your, not just major news channels, but your local news channels, those are usually good dialed in public speakers, because they're trained to keep and to grab and keep the attention of those that are listening. Otherwise, someone will go to another channel. So there's lots of ways you can do that, to find different ways to, get exposure and ask around, because most of the time, I bet you your company officer is more than happy to let you teach a drill, if not a lot of the drills, or not all the drills, and your recruit academy is probably always looking for good, solid instructors. So don't just have maybe some instructor training, which is beneficial, but doesn't hurt to obviously have certifications in the subject matter areas that you want to teach, just to have some credibility, and then build upon it from there. As I started teaching within my recruit academy years ago as a firefighter and a captain, I was already teaching at the community college, so it wasn't that I was a brand new instructor, but because I was teaching at the department academy, every now and then the department's training chief would get a call from another local academy, like the city of San Jose or, Sunnyvale, Mountain View, one of the other fire departments, when they're running their own academies, and say, hey, County Fire, do you have anyone that's qualified to teach like the incident command system, one of the state certified classes, or someone that's qualified to teach communications or fire behavior? And I was one of those few individuals, because I had already taken those classes and been registered through the state fire training, state fire marshal's office, a qualified instructor. So our training chief used to call me all the time. Hey, Steve, you busy on whatever this day here? Sunnyvale could use you if you want to go down there from 8 to 5. We'll pay you overtime or we'll cover your spot. But if you could help them out, that'd be great, because we all share instructors and help each department out. So there's lots of different ways. And once you build up a good name, that's how usually you get invited to other opportunities. So teach classes, I think it really will help your confidence, especially when you get to that oral interview, if not other phases of the process, to make you actually sound confident and comfortable in front of others. I've touched on some of the where, the when is as much as you want to. I enjoy teaching, speaking, communicating with others, helping others, paying it forward, sharing my knowledge, what little I may have, or who knows what, so lots of different opportunities. I think I've touched on most of these things, but really, I think when you get yourself out there by not just getting in front of your crew, but getting in front of multiple crews, and a lot of times people that you don't even know, it forces you to be a good instructor, a good solid instructor. And hopefully now every time you're sitting there watching another instructor, whether it's in person or virtually or wherever, you're picking up on their good and their not so good habits and traits. There's another thing, go to the internet and just Google qualities of a good instructor, a good teacher, a good presenter, a good speaker. Lots of great resources out there that you can hopefully learn from and be a better communicator. Again, all this stuff will help you during the promotional exam, but it'll also help you play ball. Sorry about that. It'll also help you during the promotional process as well, which is, not just the promotional process, the position that you're aspiring to be in. So definitely get yourself out there and get comfortable. This Paul Combs allowed me to use one of his art pieces of art masterpieces in the book. And this was related to this tip that I'm talking about right now. And, here's an example of, traits of a great instructor. On the top, it's like, I can't wait to share what I know, let's get started, and, the bullet points are straight on point, though. I think I've touched on most of these things of, if you're not a subject matter expert, learn to be one. And if you are not a subject matter expert, don't put yourself out there expecting to teach a subject that people expect you to be dialed in at. You don't have to have all the answers, but you know what? You also have to have a pretty good idea of what you're speaking on and teaching on. I think some of the other good key points here, I taught about the third bullet point, adult learning. Every adult learns differently. Be flexible. Not all students learn the same way. And that's just the same for any student, even if they're not an adult. You can't expect everyone to be like you, because people learn in different ways. And again, all these are things, if you take a formal instructor training class, if it's offered by your state fire marshal's office, like it is in California, you learn these things that you may not realize otherwise. Number 5 bullet point, respect your students. Is about them, not you. I remember the most important thing I learned about instructing years ago was the phrase, when you're an instructor, or speaker, there's nobody more important than the person in front of you in a class or a session. There's nobody more important than that person in front of you in a session, meaning whether you have 1 student, 10 students, 1,000,000 students, all of them are important, not to mention they all learn differently and retain information differently. And that's why it's critical to not just be a talking head, but to try to find different mechanisms, different ways to get your message across. That's why communication is important, different use of visual aids, not just clicking through the PowerPoint slides, but trying different things, because some people are auditory learners, some are visual learners. So what else? There are other things there. All these are good points here. Use your slides as a tool, not a crutch. We've all seen those PowerPoint slides, death by PowerPoint, where there's so much wording on them that it's hard to follow and keep up with, and it's overwhelming. One of the best things I learned during my instructional training classes through the state fire marshal's office was the 6x6 rule. If you're going to have a PowerPoint slide, no more than 6 words across, no more than 6 lines down. Anything more than that, and before you say, well, Steve, this exceeds the 6x6 rule, right? It is, but it's also not a slide. I didn't type it out. It's a picture. It's a piece of artwork. So it doesn't count, I guess. But using that as an analogy, look at that. If this was a slide that I had on my PowerPoint slide of just words typed in there, it'd be quite overwhelming. Even if I just revealed one at a time, it would still be overwhelming. So 6x6, I know it's not a perfect, always must follow rule, but it definitely helps keep things to a minimum. I mean, really, when I use PowerPoint, it's not, I mean, the words, I try to keep it short, just like you saw on the previous slide there. I try to keep it short and sweet just to have simple words for me to build upon. I also use PowerPoint as a way to plaster a picture on there, like you see right here. This is a picture that was imposed on here, or a way to put a video on there to play off of, and then discuss and talk about, which is the most important part, is not just reading off your slides, but building upon them and having a good discussion point. So again, if your department does have an oral interview, there's things you can benefit being instructor. Some departments like mine also, besides an oral interview, we do a teaching demonstration. Why? Because a company officer has to teach their class, their crew. I mean, teach their crew a class typically on a daily basis. So we give them a tool. I mean, some of the things we've done, the captain's test in the past is, okay, you got whatever, a half hour to prepare. Here's a thermal imaging camera. You got a half hour to prepare your lesson. Here's all the notes from the training manual in the department, so we're not catching you off guard. I mean, you should already know what the TIC does and is and how to use it and everything else, but you got 30 minutes to prepare, then walk into the room and the 2 or 3 raters there, that's your crew. You got 15 minutes to teach them a class on the thermal imaging camera and engage them, ask them questions, make sure they're retaining the information. Don't just be the talking head, and all those little things. So a teaching demonstration is used in a lot of departments to test someone's instructional ability. Now, sometimes in chief officer positions, while you're teaching classes, that's critical. You're also doing public speaking presentations, like to a city council, presenting maybe a budget request or defending a budget request, to a city council, or maybe your board of commissioners, board of supervisors, whoever. So speaking, the higher up you go, the more important it is to be a great, effective communicator, and you never stop, hopefully, striving to be the best that you can be. So other points here. Yeah, I mean, I've hit most of these points because I think all these things are valuable there. Yeah, all good stuff there. Paul hits it pretty much right on the nail. So, all right. Hey, think about it. As a fire officer, one of your roles is that of instructor and mentor. We are all a subject matter in some subject matter. Keyword is missing, as I failed the 6x6 rule there by a word or 2 extra. I guess I was trying to keep it short. We are all a subject matter expert in something. That's what that should read. Find your passion, share it with others. If not, make yourself a subject matter expert and pay it forward. I mean, if nothing else, know your resources. Like as a company officer, if you want to, let's say your firefighter says, hey, you know what, because a lot of people say that we hire are very green when it comes to mechanical ability. And let's say you're green. Not everyone is an expert in mechanical ability or building construction, but you've got a new recruit that is definitely green and wants to know more. I mean, share what you can if you're not an expert, but find your resources. I mean, my fire chief, he used to be a general contractor. I mean, he's an electrician. He's a general contractor. I mean, the guy knows his stuff. I mean, he's the guy you want to have teaching building construction, and he's not really doing that as the fire chief, but he's the expert in that. So find your resources, know the strengths and weaknesses of your folks, and use those to your advantage. And more importantly, the student's advantage. So as always, thank you very much for the gift of your time. Feel free to connect with me on social media, reach out if I can be of any assistance. And until the next time, y'all be safe and y'all take care. We'll see ya.